Hello and welcome to Let's Play Realism Invictus. This is the Asharid Head, and in the last video we had just repelled a Chinese invasion not too long ago, and we're in the process of building up domestically. Our defensive military position is in pretty good shape. I probably could, with some concerted effort, take a couple of his cities, but that's not what I'm interested in doing right now. Our commerce output isn't excellent, and I'm not really in a position to expand at the moment, so we will focus on that in another time period. But right now I want to get these cities developed to a greater level of maturity. We're really, the mid-classical era is kind of the precipice where you can start growing vertically. In the ancient era, under rule of fear, you can get mob justice for another happiness in your cities, and as I had mentioned before, health caps typically aren't a problem, so that's almost never your bottleneck to grow. Food, depending on your start, but in general, food tends to not be too much of a restriction, so it's typically happiness. In the early game, you can get +1 from mob justice, but you really have to wait till Code of Laws for local autonomy, monarchy with dynasticism, and some of these mid-game texts, like, well, not mid-game, mid-classical texts, like Calendar 2, to get spices and things like this to provide happiness for you. So, in my opinion, while it's always circumstantial to your specific situation, the mid-classical is a good time to develop vertically. It's a good time to conquer sometimes, but in this mod especially, if you do not have a strong commerce base, and if you're not resolutely ahead in tech, which we kind of are, but I wouldn't call it resolutely, horizontal expansion isn't a great idea. Other more experienced players might disagree, but all that being a long-winded way to say that I don't really want to conquer the Chinese or focus on doing that right now. We'll just repel any continued invasions they make. And that said, I believe we were focusing on that very goal, getting courthouses, local autonomy built up. I haven't switched to traditional custom, but once I finish Code of Laws, I think that'll be the plan of action. The culture bonus is very nice. This is probably my favorite legal civic, actually, because while in the late game, you know, if you're going for a culture victory, inclusivity is the way to go. And I haven't experimented with collectivism. That could be strong, but I've just never tried it. Plutocracy is a close second, maybe, but this comes early. Free XP, 20% in your cities, and a substantially higher happy cap with monarchy makes this a really strong choice. And having read most of the literature, if you will, for this mod on the forum, not many others seem to like traditional custom, which is mildly surprising to me, but it's one of my favorites. You get it early in the game. It's not totally inferior. I mean, it might be arguably inferior to some of these, but over the course of the whole game's timeline, for coming so early, it's competitive with these other civics. So it's probably my favorite legal civic, if not my favorite civic overall. Pairing it with monarchy is just really nice, because the monarchy, you know, you get 1 from local autonomy. This enables local autonomy, which also gives you +1 by default. So it's a really nice growth cap boost. Anyway, let's proceed with our aforementioned exploration program. As I'd said, given that this city's changed hands like 2 or 3 times, there's clearly a lot of geopolitical traffic going on over here, and this being in the dark isn't great for us, so Now is a good time to reveal that. Are we not in slavery yet? We are not. But yet I have invested in slave farms. So we're going to switch to slavery once. Probably once we get monarchy. Which is going to be a bit of a ways away, so code of laws. Yeah, that's not super close. Do we need to work any of these farms in the meantime? No, we have a food glut from this overproduced livestock, and we have this fish too. So, it's nothing to race towards, but once we do switch to monarchy, I will switch to slavery. We're in a strong enough military position too to handle slave revolts, which will inevitably happen. This city is going to need the slave farm bonus to grow, and sadly, yeah, this is a freshwater tile, so we're going to need to slave farm this belt here so that Thermopylae can have some irrigated slave farms to work, because I know we're still in pastoral nomadism, but this is just too food poor, and we need to work this instead. A level 1 city, especially with an unworked gold mine, that is suboptimal. But at least I've claimed this spot and I'm investing culture in it, so. And I don't even immediately share a border with anyone here yet, so in the long run it's probably fine, but level 1 cities this early in the game are pretty expensive, because you pay a tech cost malus of 10% per city on the large map size, and then you also have pretty hefty city maintenance itself to pay, which necessarily results in a slider decrease unless you've played some early game gambit where you have a bunch of settled great profits that give you a budget surplus in the ancient world, but aside from that, that basically never happens. So in 98% of the games you play, you're going to have a research malice double whammy from each marginal city, so when it's sitting at level 1, not really doing anything, it's kind of a drain on your economy. That said, though, our capital is one of, if not the largest, it's not the largest city in the world, but it's one of the top 5. We've got a wonder, and we've got a seat at the cool kids table with our population, so we're not underdeveloped overall, but this city is clearly lagging significantly. I said I wouldn't explain the mechanics too much, but just for those of you who might be curious, the epidemics mechanic in this mod, of course you can see here the percentage that it's going to happen. It's influenced by pretty intuitively obvious things like the level of your population, the level of health infrastructure buildings you have, and things like this. But if your city is size 4 or lower, it doesn't actually reduce in population if it sustains an epidemic. It just gets the commerce and production malus, which also applies to cities that lose population. I think I'm a little embarrassed here. I'm trying to remember where to find this. You can't just search universally, you have to be in the right tab, but it's a modifier. It's probably under buildings. Yeah, it is a building. Okay. So yeah, this Grim Reaper, he's holding a scythe and an hourglass. Death comes for us all. It's only a matter of time. But yeah, so anyways, you can see any city that has an epidemic has a minus 25% production and commerce penalty. That applies universally, but if the city is larger than 4, it loses a population every turn as long as the epidemic is sustained, and there's a roll that's made every turn to see if the epidemic clears. So, anyway, just for those of you who might have been curious. Let's proceed, though. I like how the sound effect is the same for the tavern, which is clearly people like clanking glasses and being kind of drunk laughing. But the gymnasium or gymnasium in ancient Greece was far from that. I do not blame them for not including a separate sound effect for the flavor graphics, though. That would really have been above and beyond any kind of realistic expectation. In spite of this mod's name. Yeah, why not, Weaver Shop? I know Walter has made a point numerous times about people who chagrin these limited ancient era commerce buildings. Oh, it provides +1, you know. That's paltry. But I mean, multiply that over the whole course of the game. Imagine you chagrin +1, which is super cheaply built, when there are nearly 2,000 turns left in the game. But late in the game, if you got something that gave you 2,000, you would think, oh, cool, how amazing. So, it's interesting how our psychological perspectives influence things. So yeah, we're still at war with the Chinese, but we really kicked their asses, so I don't think they're going to come back imminently, and if they do, it's probably going to be within striking distance of this stack here. So we're probably fine on that for the time being. In fact, he might even take peace. Yeah, he's going to give us stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and take this. I don't want to take his cities or anything, but if he just showed up, like, via this road here, I wouldn't be able to get this army to Corinth fast enough, and yeah, and as weird as it is, with Thermopylae being level 1, not now that we've declared peace, but we might have had some separatism issue if we moved the whole garrison out of the city, or had to continue fighting the war that way. But yeah, since we're focused on domestic growth right now, we can fight him later. I'm not worried about it. It looks like he didn't settle this peninsula, though. I was kind of expecting that to have already happened. And we do need to go kind of clockwise south and east, but I want to kind of get this shoreline exposed if I can. And I think we have open borders with the Inca. Yes, so yeah, I'll do that first. Go through the reef, sustain the damage. Let's heal next turn, because we might get attacked by some random pirate galley. Although over here it doesn't look like there are any outlying little islands they could come from, but still, let's just heal up. Nice Civ 3 ancient era music playing. I do kind of like how they blended that, the Civ 3 music, until the Renaissance, I think, was included in Civ 4. So the ancient and classical music, and even the medieval music, I think some, if not all of it, was just included directly. Later in the game, you know, and Civ 3 had some cool later game music. I don't know why they didn't keep that too, but they didn't. So, oh well. Take them where you get them. Alright, now we have a weaver shop. You know what? By the same logic, let's just put 2 turns into a warehouse. Okay, road's done, gold's connected, but we need markets to actually facilitate that happiness. Oh well. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I kind of get it. In the base game, just merely having the resource connected 1 turn later and everyone gets it, like, that does feel a little cheap, but, oops, I shouldn't have gone that northwest square, but I don't know, like, plausibly in the ancient world, if you have a working gold mine that's producing commerce, then realistically, people are wearing the gold. It's not that hard to beat it into rings and earrings and bracelets and things like this. So having to invest like 90 turns, I know that's exaggerated, but this is really an expensive building, especially this early in the game, and needing that to get. Oh no, this isn't even the one for. Oh yeah. It's the aesthetics one. Whoops. Same point though, which admittedly this is a cheaper building, but that you're making money mining gold or silver or gems, which is reflected in hefty commerce amounts. But you're not getting happiness from what you're presumably selling to your own people in addition to other people via or other civs via your trade routes. Without this building, I have trouble taking that seriously. I mean, from a strategic standpoint, I kind of get it. You should develop your commercial infrastructure, even if it's in the ancient world or something, but I don't know. I think the hammer cost of that building should be way reduced, and probably I think the commerce output of the mine should be really, really a lot less, and then the market or well, in this case the jeweler, even though it does produce a commerce output, I mean, I think the native commerce should be reduced and this should be doubled at least, but oh well. I don't expect like perfect realism from this game. I know it's called Realism Invictus. I know that isn't even the purpose of the mod, to actually simulate history, but I just think it's a little silly that you would get a lot of commerce, especially in a time period in the game where you don't really get it from trade routes, you don't really get it from towns or cottages. I mean, except for maybe one or two. And in the early game, these luxuries are supposed to really fuel your conquest and your economy and things like this. You get the commerce from working the mine, but that should be commensurate with the happiness your public gets for having that resource. But I digress. Whatever. This mod is in super, super high quality. The few tiny complaints I have are few and far between and pretty insignificant overall. Oh, hey, speak of the devil. What do you know? I guess the game was listening and it wanted to apologize for that discrepancy, so we have an event which is very ironically applicable to the exact point I was making, and we're going to get a crap ton of money. Cool, alright. Works for me. We can probably fund 100% research, which probably isn't a bad idea. We did get spies in all of our cities, so it's not impossible that someone could steal. I'm going to go ahead and start this irrigation belt here. It's not impossible that someone could steal, but that's still a liability, so let's boost our beaker rate. We don't have any units to upgrade. Oh no, not true. We have a lot of units to upgrade. I never did this to my archers. I thought I had already done that. So I'm going to upgrade my archers. 106, 102, and you only have one. We're going to need like one more in each city probably, so I'll put that in the build order soon. Here's another broken thing about this game. I think I mentioned this in the previous Let's Play. They gave Indian music to Ethiopia. But okay. Well, that's not the farthest stretch you could make, but okay. This is sort of an advantage we can apply from having the politician trait, which makes us pleased by default with almost everyone. But if you're not pleased, if you're cautious, annoyed, or furious with someone, and you make a demand, it's considered a demand. And if they refuse, well, actually, even if they accept, you get a diplomatic penalty for demanding. And if you're stronger than them, more often than not, generally speaking, they accept it, but you still sustain that diplomatic penalty with them. You made an arrogant demand, which will show up in red letters on the pop-up to the left of the cursor here. If you're pleased, it's considered a request. If they refuse, there's no fallout. So that means post currency, which enables currency trading, if I'm not wrong. No, it enables wealth building. Currency trading is enabled by trade. So yeah, post trade. I had a second guessing of myself there, but anyway, yeah, post trade. If you're pleased with someone, you can literally just frisk them of money, and even if they refuse, there's no diplomatic penalty. Now, of course, you have a mandatory peace treaty if you do that, but if you're pleased with someone, you can just take their money, which for the purpose of unit upgrading is immensely useful. Now, I don't have enough intel on the Inca to see my relative military strength, which would show up as this number next to the flexed arm here, but and since they're a close neighbor of mine, and actually I do kind of have an interest in maintaining pretty good relations with them, I'm not going to demand, but say I did, and they thought I was stronger, they'd probably give me their money, but since we're cautious, in addition to you refuse to accept our religion, I would get a you made an arrogant demand penalty, and I don't want that. I'd also like to add how ironic is it that the Peruvian civilization has potatoes for trade, but yeah. So yeah, we can see by this happy face here, the Achaemenids are pleased, so even if he doesn't want to give this to me, and he did, if he refused, it wouldn't matter unless we were planning to attack him within 15 turns. Let's do the same for Sweden. You guys like giving free stuff out to your people, so why not me? Me can't do that. The Aztecs, I think we already did demand from. And I don't have a relative power value, and 30 gold isn't enough for the diplomatic penalty, so I'll ignore that. But Korea's pleased, and oh wow, they have a lot of money. Now, if it's a huge amount, sometimes they refuse, but like I just said, if they're pleased, there's no penalty for asking, so. And sure enough, they give me the money. So this is kind of a broken thing, because you can do this. I don't know what the actual timetable is, but you can do this frequently. The peace treaty that mandatorily generates is 15 turns, but you can just keep frisking them of their surplus money, and if they're pleased with you, they give it to you most of the time. So the diplomacy in this game is probably the most lacking feature, and that's no fault of the modders. Apparently, that is a very hard-coded thing, which is the least. Yeah, it's only +1. I'll leave that. Growth restraint, it's not that much of a waste. I don't think we have a better alternative, really. But anyway, you know, you can change so much in this game. It's so open to modding, but I don't think diplomacy is, unfortunately. And having played, you know, some of the mid-era Paradox games, I think did a great job modeling diplomacy. Not perfect, but included things that are not part of Civ 4's engine, and so that's not the fault of the modders at all, but this is just one example of a way that it's kind of implausibly easy to exploit the engine. This game doesn't have an infamy system. I mean, it kind of indirectly does with the you declared war on our friend and whatever, but no casus belli, no guarantees, no variegated reasons to declare war, no whatever, but oh well. All that to say, yeah, if you need unit upgrades, politician's a good trait, because you're going to be pleased with basically everyone, and you can just ask for their lunch money and use it, and they don't care, because they like you. You're a popular kid. Okay, by the same logic, once again. Whoops. Potter shop. I don't think this gets obsoleted by anything, so if anything, it just becomes a hobby in the modern world. So we're going to build a potter shop in Athens. Oh, this is our scout. Yeah. And yeah, like I said in a previous video, I don't think it was the previous one, but once you've revealed a city, even though they're in the dark, you will always see their population. And that can tell you a lot, so it's good to reveal foreign cities as early as possible. Friend or foe. And we need to heal this guy after that. Treacherous Aztec. Okay, you're cautious, they're cautious. I don't really care about either of you, so don't solicit me. Yeah, that's another thing, like, I mean, I get it, the way this game works, you have to choose your friends, you have to choose your enemies, and the way they personify leaders as one person throughout all of history in kind of a spiritual representation of the country is something I can get behind. Like, that's not a stupid concept for a game, but especially when you get into the modern era, it's increasingly hard to take that kind of diplomacy seriously. Like, hey, you want to attack this guy with me? I'm going to do it tomorrow. You know, I mean, that's not really how diplomacy happens. Will you go to war with me to avenge Helen, who was abducted? Menelaus to, Agamemnon? Sure, but that's legendary Iliadic history. And in a video game, you can take it seriously, but like when you're getting to a game that models modern warfare relatively well, it's like, hey, you want to attack these people like instantly? That's just not how that really happens, and I don't know. So all that to say, I really, 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 really wish the diplomacy of this game could be reworked, but I don't think that's possible, and I'll just have to play different games for my sense of realism there. But yeah, that kind of solicitation's kind of annoying, and honestly, as much as I dislike Civ 5 compared to Civ 4 overall, at least the very one little thing they added in that regard with the give us 10 turns to prepare, even in the guise of a video game, that makes a huge difference, because usually the AI, especially if you play with it plays to win on, the Caradoc AI that was incorporated into this mod, is so opportunistically psychopathic that it will make those requests at the least humanly realistic, plausible moments, but you're still left with the consequences of your answer. So it'll ask you that like at a ridiculously bad time. Like, you might be barely surviving a war from someone else, and someone will just randomly ask you to declare war on their own separate enemy, and that person might have been kind of a floating ally of yours on good terms. They might help you, but it's not sure. But the AI doesn't consider the fact, like a human would, that because you're incredibly hard pressed in your own war, even if you would otherwise help them, you are in no position to spare anything for someone else's foreign policy goals. So you pretty much have to refuse. The AI can't consider it from that angle. It only thinks, we have high relations, I have my objective, therefore I should call my allies in to help me. Which forces distance between you and them, but it's not that you wouldn't help them if you had forces or time or money or resources to spare. It's that they ask you when you're like in a crucible situation in your own war, and it's really frustrating when the only strategically good thing to say is, no, I can't help you, even though you actually do have a real vested interest in maintaining good relations with that other civ, but the game just isn't coded to think that way. So, unfortunately, you pretty much have to tell them, no, screw off, and that just damages your relationship with them. And of course, they'll do similarly. You don't even have to ask them when they're in their own super trying moment. They typically just blow you off anyway. But it would be nice if the diplomatic situation of this was a little more dynamic. This is like a 9 out of 10 game, and that's probably my biggest criticism. So, oh well, I won't say it's a drop in the bucket because it is kind of annoying when that sort of thing happens, but it is not like a deal breaker for this being an excellent game. But anyway, I wanted to go on that minor rant there, so let that stand for the record and no need to dwell on it. But we just researched our tech. Time to choose something else. I'm going to go for dynasticism, which this is going to clear out a lot of the text that show that we don't have in the foreign advisor. And yeah, we're probably, and I said I want another archer. I'm going to go ahead and queue that up. Let's get a courthouse and then an archer everywhere. Unless a more immediate priority prevails. We already have like 2 turns invested in this. But it's a warehouse. Let's do it this way. Let's put the warehouse at the tail end. It's not worth building, but it is clearly a lower priority, I think. Yeah, some of these icons I have trouble recognizing even now. Like, seriously, where did the warehouse go? And here it is. Okay. We've got a slave revolt here. They're probably going to die. Actually, they're absolutely going to die because our entire army nearly is stationed in this tiny little rump city. Okay, Potter's Workshop, Courthouse, and then get a composite bow. Cool. Alright. Heal. These Leonard Nimoy voice narrations are really something special. And I say that as no Trekkie. I've seen a few episodes of Star Trek. I don't really care about it, but he really embodies that kind of timeless, wise old man voice in a way that few can emulate. I really feel bad working in an unimproved forest, but it's unfortunately the best option when you're wasting food. Like I said, you can't just overgrow and whip. And sure, like, there is some math involved in that. You don't just, in the base game, overgrow and just kill and overgrow and kill, and like it's some kind of simple exploit. There is timing with when and how much and for what and things like this, which for a strategic game makes plenty of sense, but all that aside, in Realism Invictus, that mechanic basically doesn't exist. It only exists at the end of the game, and is generally going to be very suboptimal at that point. You also don't have endless specialists you want to run. In the base game, you get Code of Laws, you can run Caste System, which gives you basically unlimited specialists, which you can dump all your excess food into. You can't do that in this game, so that really means that working a forest is probably going to be your best option early in the game. And keeping that forest is also going to be a much more important consideration than in the base game, because health in Vanilla Civ 4 entirely lacking the epidemic system is just an almost negligible food malice. If you can optimize your food elsewhere, having an unhealthy city doesn't matter at all. In this game, it can absolutely cripple you, so you don't have the same kind of easy choices, and you don't have the same kind of easy options for alternatives like you do. So, alrighty. And we're gonna get somewhat close to calendar. I'll go ahead and chop this forest because we're gonna turn this into a plantation. Alright, good thing we can skip that reef and skip this reef. Not have to heal again. Yeah, I'm glad to see we're doing well in the tech game. Especially because our commerce situation isn't wonderful, and of course commerce is the main facilitator of research. That is one thing. I don't tend to struggle too much with military parity. I don't tend to struggle too much with many aspects of the game, but I do, around mid to late medieval, tend to fall behind in tech, and that is actually the worst time to do that because the obsolescence of melee units by gunpowder is an absolute death sentence. Ironically, longbows are still good defenses against cities, or for cities, against even line infantry, arguably. I mean, it's not going to last very long. Yeah, we don't have open borders with him, and he's not going to give it. But he didn't settle this peninsula, that's all we need to know. So, I mean, you don't have much time. If you're behind in tech and they have line infantry and you have longbows, you're pretty much doomed, but it's not the same walkover as it is when they have line infantry and you have, you know, plate armor units, because you're just doomed at that point. So that is a time period where you absolutely do not want to be behind. So I'm glad to see we're doing well this time.
When people lack teachers, their tendencies are not corrected. When they do not have
Usually that happens in games where
then their lawlessness
I'm too ambitious early on. I try to apply a military advantage and overextend. Like, for instance, if we counterattacked against China, it might have been doable. I could take these cities, but the cost in tech probably would not be offset by their ability to grow so early, and then someone else would get line infantry and attack me or whatever, and that's just not great. Timing when to expand is one of the biggest questions in this game, I think. And I have beat this on Monarch. I'm not a rank beginner or anything, but that is a pitfall. So I think we made the right move, staying with these three cities for now, and just fighting defensively if we get attacked. Alright, and we had another border pop in Corinth, which was nice because I don't think it was shared with any others. And so, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but just in brief, one of the ways the culture mechanic works in this game, your city's output every turn is applied to every single square within its current borders. And I don't know if RI changed this, but I don't think it did. In addition to plus 20 per turn for every interior layer of the culture. So the outermost layer that this city's output applies to gets plus 7 because that's the city's output. And I don't want to keep painting to this boat, damn it. Go into the reef, we'll heal you later. Okay, now I gotta move this. Invictus, yeah, classic Civ 4 UI. Do this, do this, do this. Forget what you were planning. I mean, I see why they do it, but it's still kind of annoying. So anyway, the absolute periphery we get +7. And we get whatever the city's output is which in this case is 7, +20 for every subsequent interior layer. So these tiles get 27 a turn, and these get 47 a turn. So every time you have a cultural ring expansion, if you will, you add +20 to the first interior line and +40 to the one after that. Which means if you claim land early, and it's not contested by a rival border, you're really, really solidifying your Civ's stamp and presence in that area. So if I end up having a long rivalry with China later, I am spraying my culture into this stuff here. Even if they take this periphery at some point, it's going to be hard for them to take something one layer inside, so yeah, with my Greek-Russian music. How can you resist Russian music? In case you didn't know, that's not a very obvious mechanic of this game, but I think it's something that's easily understood. Ah, Galen. That is a funny quote that I did not know. You can pause the video and read that if you want. I'm not going to recite it. Although I'm not sure why he mentioned a rooster there. Wait. Oh, the elements haven't even been founded yet. Excellent. Yeah, I'm playing a different game offline. I wanted to keep these uploads about a week apart, and I think my previous upload was on Wednesday, so I waited till Wednesday to upload this. But I am playing a separate RI game offline, and yeah, it's hard to keep everything distinct in my mind, unfortunately. So my highest science output city is by a good margin Athens. This is the best place to do it. We're going to go elements all the way for the extra 2 great scientist points. Elements, number 1, De Materia Medica. Number 2, basically bar none in my mind. Early in the game, the -5 epidemic chance is super, super nice. But +2 great scientist points in an era where, well, really in an era and in a mod where you can't run caste system for unlimited scientists early in the game means you are super competitive to get great scientist output against anyone else. So elements first, bar none, I think. Oh, we can't spread irrigation yet, can we? Yeah, not even close. We need irrigations for that. Irrigation systems, and we don't have that at all, so this worker's gonna need to do something else. And I hate to chop forest. That's another thing. Like I said, you know, the unimproved forest isn't really an uncompetitive tile in Realism Invictus like it is in the base game, when you have such obviously better alternatives, but in the medieval era, when you can get lumber mills with all of this appreciated production, chopping your forest early, especially when the immediate hammer yield you get for chopping a forest was reduced quite a bit, is not a great choice. Working the unimproved forest is not really a bad move in this mod, but in the base game it is, because, yeah, ooh, just maximize your free hammers and chop some stupid stack that you conquer another civ with, and you just instantly gain a reward from it. In this mod, you usually can't sustain doing that, so, yeah. I would send the worker to go chop the forest with my trained Beyond the Sword mind, but I'm not going to do that, because in this mod it doesn't work that way, and Besides, the people of Athens need some trees around them. But the question remains what to do with you. So Corinth has 1, 2, 3, 4 forests in the big fat cross. I'm going to keep all of them because I want the +2 health from that. For the same reason. And it's really not a terrible source of hammers in the meantime. Let's mine here. And I don't think we can get through that in one turn, unfortunately, so maybe that's why the Chinese didn't settle that peninsula. It was too rough. We could olive grove this thing, but nah. Mine it all the way. Ah, yes, the Chinese, they won't give us open borders, and look at this. Yeah, my leader, this is the Navy's alternative route. No, sorry, dude, that's not going to work. So let's heal up here. We might even just camp there because I think Cao Cao is going to declare war on us again soon. And when he does, we can just sail through again. Usually the AIs that attack you kind of suicidally. Nope, not you, sorry. They tend to do it serially, so we should expect this in the future. Yeah, exploring a Barb City. We got a Nordic archer here. Let's hide behind this dude. We're both mutual enemies of the barbarians. If they attack one, they'll attack us both. Okay, the Aztecs don't want to have
Found
open
Rome a
borders.
city of bricks and left it
Yeah,
a city of marble.
I'd mentioned it briefly. I don't like civil service. It's okay. I mean, the hammer bonus is nice, but I don't know. Maybe in the Renaissance, but not in the Classical era. You can't even build this in the Classical era at all, so that part of the civic is null when it becomes available. You forfeit 20% culture in an era usually of pretty tense border friction to 10% production in an era when, first of all, 10 is less than 20. You can't really afford a massive army, and this wonder isn't super great, actually, in my opinion. Another happiness in your capital. I guess 2 if you're running slavery. And you have to, your 20% culture rate is sort of a cope for getting rid of it for free from having traditional customs, so I don't know. This is kind of nice, though. The local bureaucracy is a free craftsman, which is nice. It's not a bad civic, but I just don't like it as much. I've played many games of civil service, and I think early on when you have a food surplus, this is the way to go. Others might disagree. We're probably going to die moving away from this archer. Yeah. I'm going to hide behind this archer. If he moves, we'll go with him. If not, we'll go back to this hill. No, he's going to hang out there, so we'll go here. Okay, we've slave farmed it, even though slavery is not legal yet. Imagine, I just think of like some kind of commercial real estate, like slaves ready to move in or something, before it's even legally institutionalized. Once we get water pump, or irrigation systems, excuse me, we can spread irrigation with these, and later in the game, I want this whole plain area to be farm. We built some cottages early on, and I want to keep those as cottages, but otherwise, the utility of specialists late in the game is rather lucrative. So, if you develop towns early on, there's a really big opportunity cost destroying them for farms. But if you go with slavery, you get high yield farms early on, and if you switch them in the mid to late medieval, the food output's pretty good from regular farms, and when your growth capacity of your cities skyrockets in the industrial era, those farmers facilitate specialists, and yeah, it's just this phase in the game you do need towns, so some cottages were absolutely worth building, and I don't regret doing that, but the contiguous areas that can be irrigated from my farms later on, I definitely want to do so, and I'll spread the irrigation with my slave farms once I get irrigation systems researched, which we're still a bit of a ways away from. I'm going to leave that forest there. Let's just go ahead and build another mine. And this is Inca. Yeah, we have open borders with you. Pachacmac, or whatever. I'm really kind of sold on this idea of discovering a resource. I don't know, that kind of gets to me. And I'm not someone who has any inclination to go gambling in real life. So, let that be as it may. Yeah, you know, whatever. This is just 1 gold per turn. We'll just stay here. He's gonna attack me again anyway. I know it will happen. So, it seems dynasticism is not a tech that anyone else has yet. Yep, no one even has monarchy, so that corroborates that observation. I'm gonna go for Hanging Gardens. I really like that wonder. We're probably not gonna get it, but it's fun. And we have stone, masonry materials, and oh no, oh yeah, okay, stone and masonry materials, which is the finished good from that input in the ancient world, are both separately production boosters. So I'll go for it. We might not get it, but we'll see. The Chinese convert to Zoroastrianism. Can't remember if they had a religion before. I don't think they did. And we're going to convert to monarchy and slavery next turn, I think. Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. Right on the eve of your planned revolution. Yeah, the annoying Korean must be destroyed, don't you agree? Yeah, honestly not at the moment. Which knocks us down to cautious with him.
Is not a good thing. Let there be one ruler, one king.
Okay. Monarchy. Traditional. Oh, and traditional custom. I forgot. We hadn't switched out a rule of fear yet. So this is going to be a long revolution we're going to keep in paganism because we invested in our temples. Oh, yeah, and we're going to switch to subsistence economy too because we built all these slave farms. So, except that actually doesn't prolong it. So yeah, a massive revolution for us. We become the Peloponnesian League now. And so I guess we became Spartan instead of Athenian because of this lambda on our flag, but okay. Okay, we finished this mine. We'll finish this belt once we get irrigation systems researched, but we don't have that researched yet. Let's slave farm that. Go down here and here. Do we have any deals with the Incans? Open borders. And you were pleased with the Incan, we're pleased with... No, I'm just going to ignore it. I don't really care about either of you. I really wish diplomacy in this game didn't work that way because it's such a good game otherwise, but I digress. Whatever. Whatever. Okay. And now, Thermopylae, yeah, okay, that didn't really change anything instantly. But we can build local autonomy for a massive happiness boost here. I'm going to queue that up. But we don't want to lose the race to Hanging Gardens if we get it, so I'll do that next. Same here. They're not going to grow fast enough in time. In 16 turns, we can work the slave farm and keep the process going, but it's going to be slow going. Uh-oh, pasture's destroyed. And that one didn't even give me the option to pay money to repair it. Usually you have some option like buy off someone with your money. This is kind of strangely Mexican looking here. I know the Inca are Peruvian, but the like kind of mountains in the middle, jungle, and the narrowing taper peninsula. Well, it's not a peninsula, but you know. Anyway, it looks kind of Mexican. Okay, research drama. Thermopylae has another border
all the
pop.
world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They
And
have their
I think
exits
the
and
next thing, yeah, we
entrances,
need to move
and
towards
one man in
this.
his time
I'll
plays
reconsider
many
the
parts.
exact tech path soon. We need calendar, for instance, to get this cotton plantation, which might be worth doing somewhat soon. I'll slave farm that. Move him here. And then we can proceed with our actual stated goal of researching reviewing this land here, but it's been about an hour, so I think this is a good stopping point. We kind of developed ourselves domestically a little more. Our institutions are more poised towards greater vertical development, and we repelled the Chinese invasion. They kind of tucked their tails between their pants, signing peace with us. They'll probably attack us again. But if they do, we're in a decent position to repel that. We're about to get a second composite bow here, and I'll move this army probably to this forest to kind of cover both cities from that angle. But in the next video, we'll get some more concrete steps about the next direction we should take as we kind of finish out the classical era. But we have some nice cities. Thermopylae, now that we switched out of pastoral nomadism, can start to grow and mature. And we actually just unlocked this second limestone. So once this gets hooked up and we finish researching civil engineering, which we're queued up to do soon, we can get paved roads. So we'll be in a good domestic position here coming up pretty soon. But this is a good place to stop for now. We'll get some immediate direction in the next video. So this is the Asharid Head. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.